What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 16 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Settra Great King, the Imperishable Khemri Kara, the Great King of Nehekara, King of Kings, Opener of the Way, Wielder of the Divine Flame, Punisher of Nomads, the Great Unifier, Commander of the Golden Legion, Sacred of Appearance, Bringer of Light, Father of Hawks, Builder of Cities, Protector of the Two Worlds, and many, many more. So as we saw last time, King Awakov here has moved to fight the Tzeentchans and gotten a few nice battles against the Swords of Change and the... I don't remember this faction, but it's dead now. Whatever faction was occupying the Portal of Twilight. Something Scribes, was it maybe? And we'll probably be setting out on the journey to the 9th library soon, or I should say soon-ish. We've arrived at Bel Aliad, which unfortunately kind of didn't work out in the way that we wanted to, as these guys were able to take the library of Hereptus before we got there, forcing us to declare war upon them. Now, in theory, we could have gotten some territory over here from Xandri, for example, or somebody, and traded it to them for vassalage, but I didn't care to do it that way. So either this works out or it does not, we'll see. Either the vamps vassalize or they will die. Now, we do need to adjust in the way that we're moving Wakov then, most likely, don't we? Or we could risk it. We've got defenses coming up here in Dust Road just in case, which we could delete later. Frankly, we had deleted them previously, but whatever. And maybe Panet can deal with all of this himself while we just move Wakov wherever he needs to go. A little bit risky. Maybe we spend the extra turn. Well, if we move here for one turn, it'll take 2 turns to go here, allowing these guys to rebuild most likely. Oh, the Swords of Change are the ones that occupy the Impossible Fortress. Oh, I guess they're pretty strong, aren't they? You know, I think we're gonna risk it. Go besiege the Heavenward halls, and we shall see. What do we have here in terms of defenses? Oh, pretty good. Probably willing to sally out and attack a side wager. Let's just in case build some towers and siege equipment, and besiege them and see what happens. Wakov, let's also apply a little bit of the old levels. Now, Geheb doesn't help you. Assyrian doesn't help you. What are we missing that might potentially be useful for you? Ancient Stone does not help you. You have Elite Cavalrymen, Sun-Scorched Bones, and Stone Sentinels, so I guess you could get Master Charioteers to help the 1 Tomb Bark, but that kind of feels not worth it, you know? Let's, I guess, then get the single... You know what? There's a lot of range damage coming in and out of Tzeentch, so let us get you Ceremonial Bandages, Embalmed, and Elixir, and then just start moving through the fighty tree. Time to make you even fightier than you already are. A True Grandmaster for you as well. Lovely. And a Lich Priest. What are we going to get for you? I guess we just keep moving through Onslaught, though I guess we'll be defending in this particular situation. You know what? Maybe get another... Well, actually, we don't care about overcasting Assyrians, and I still find it kind of bleh. Affects up to 20 entities, strong versus multiple units rather than single units. Oh, I guess so. We don't really have anything that will be super effective versus a single unit here. I just had a sort of different version to it. Alright, screw it, let's just get Onslaught. Good enough. I don't think it'll matter for this particular fight unless there's another full stack like right here, which, you know, is a possibility. Oh, this is Khorne out here. Huh. Well, it's an opportunity to fight some more foes, and I'm sure Khorne would appreciate Wakov and his twin blades swinging. Anyway, let's see what else we gotta do in this particular turn, if anything at all. It looks to me like we're done here, yes? I don't think anybody needed to move, or if they did, I've forgotten, and I'm just gonna end the turn and see who sallies out and attacks us. How about that? Now, we could start building that Great Moonbird. Oh, actually, next turn we'll raise a new army, which will make it a little bit easier. Well, those Arcs of Sotek have certainly gotten a little bit more expensive. Oh, we got the Croxagores as well. I might put some of these lizards to use as well, but for now, let's end the turn. Alright, it looks like these Tzeentchans will sally out as well. Last episode we saw them strike at us with a bunch of Flamer-type units, including some Burning Chariots. We got only 2 Flamers this time, but a lot more Forsaken and Spawn combination than we had last episode. So, let's see how these guys do. Go. Alrighty, well, if anyone's going to bring destruction to the realm of Tzeentch, it's probably Wakaf. Anyway, here we go. Ooh, and gotta love the way that the place looks, though. Always a shame that they didn't use the sort of Realms of Chaos maps in the Immortal Empires map, but at the same time, I do think that Old World does need to remove the Realms of Chaos from the map, or at least add it as an option, and just would be nice. But anyway, here we go. I digress. We are going to, as usual, deploy our snakes and our skeleton horse archers at the front of the line to annoy the enemy as much as possible and start targeting the critical enemy targets, like the flamers of Tzeentch. In fact, as soon as the flamers stop for a second to get their first volley out, we summon a Skullstorm right on top of them, which pretty much tears them to shreds. Luckily for us, despite being a monstrous infantry unit, monstrous missile infantry, whatever, they are pretty darn fragile, and the Skullstorm, despite being meant for infantry, will tear them to shreds. Our Tomb Guard moves through the ranks of the Sepulchral Stalkers and the Skeleton Archers as they continue, or Skeleton Horse, while they continue to fire away. And while some of the Flamers are focusing down our Sepulchral Stalkers, it's much better that they do that rather than attempt to go after our Tomb Guard, who would probably lose half their HP to a single volley, whereas the Sepulchral Stalkers are a lot less vulnerable to that, which works out quite well for us. Plus, the Sepulchral Stalkers are functioning in a little bit more of a melee function in this particular battle, holding back the tide of Chaos Spawn, which are inferior to the Sepulchral Stalkers in terms of a direct melee confrontation, and are in the process of being cut down by those anti-large halberds. The bounce power has already shifted to about 80% in our favor, and our Tomb Guard have closed the distance with a fair few of the enemy pink and blue horrors. I'm actually not sure that there are any of the blue variant, but either way, most of them are no longer firing away. The Flamers have melted at this point, being focused down by our cavalry. And it looks like the battle is very nearly ours. With the enemy Chaos Spawn largely destroyed, our Sepulchral Stalkers are able to wade into the fray and make sure that as many more units of pink horrors are not able to fire. They look really tiny from distance, but they're actually fairly big. I mean, they're almost the size of a Tomb Guard, although I guess at the same time, the Tomb Guard are smaller than regular infantry, being all desiccated and all that. I'm actually surprised that the Tomb Guard in this particular army are not yet max rank. They're not at their 9th chevron yet, or at least a bunch of them are not. They're still on rank 8, though hopefully not for too much longer. My only reason for the surprise is just how much fighting Wakaf's been doing, generally speaking, over the course of the campaign. Although I suppose at the same time, a lot of the damage and the fighting in this particular army is being delivered by the Sepulchral Stalkers and the Skeleton Horse, so the Tomb Guard cannot quite do as much. Anyway, the enemy melt away. We will begin chasing down the mortal elements of the enemy army, the Forsaken, while we cut down the last remaining unbreakable units, i.e. those Chaos Spawn. Looks like they reach a particular threshold of HP and then have a little explosion ability. Apex Magic, dampen removes magical attacks. Ooh, that ain't great. Affects enemies in range, winds of magic power reserve powers 15 or greater, and in melee, large explosion with knockback effect. Interesting. It's only 10 seconds that they get the dampen, though. Kind of interesting that Tzeentch removes magic. I would imagine that even our magics would feed Tzeentch in some way, shape, or form. Anyway, here we go. The last of the Chaos Spawn charges forth and gets knocked down, and with that, the battle is ours, and hopefully we'll see a few more of these lovely Tzeentchian maps before we hit up the 9th library and get to that Book in Nagash out of the Realm of Chaos. Alrighty, there we go, no problem at all, and once again, the benefit of fighting the demonic factions, with the exception of the Forsaken, is that most of the units will melt away, or with the Chaos Spawn are at least unbreakable. And it's lovely because we can take the place and not suffer attrition, and simply abandon it next turn. Alrighty, there we go, and unsurprisingly, all of the undead will attack Panat once more, with Khalid El-Muntazir, the sort of a lord of the faction, in the lead as well. I wonder what level he is here, can't tell. Just the level of this particular, by the looks of him, Necrarch Lord. Anyway, we'll find out for sure before we, fill him with arrows from the Silent Watchers, Sun Piercers, and the other Shabdi. Go. Alright, here we go, round 2 for Panat's, I would say, not generic, sort of a jack-of-all-trades kind of force with lots of different types of units mixed together against the vampire counts and the droves of enemies that they are likely to bring to bear. Fortunately for us, we've already defeated a fair few of them, so we know Panat can handle it. But let's see how well the enemy do here. I love those Hyro Titans, and ooh, the lighting here looks great. Once again, it's been such a treat, such a pleasure fighting in the desert over the course of this campaign. I think it might be my favorite place to do a campaign, just because the battles are so gloriously cinematic, even discounting the sort of the toppled obelisks and the statuary and the pyramids overhead. The lighting is always just so fantastic. And while it might feel a little bit boring not to have trees and all that sort of terrain, we're really here to see the units clash and all that. So yeah, desert probably takes the cake for me, and then followed by the sort of tundra, the frozen territories of northern Kislev and of Norska and all that. But anyway, I digress. Gonna start the battle over all the way on the left flank, as far away from the enemy reinforcements as possible, charging through some zombies, skeletons, and whatnot with our units of Necropolis Knights, far away from any enemy units that can do any significant damage to them. Unfortunately, the enemy is going to countercharge us with that Vampire Lord, Khalid El-Muntazir, and we have to back off, while the other units are unlikely to have enough alpha damage to actually kill a Necropolis Knight. The Lord might, with a blow or two, actually knock a Necro Serpent down, and we shouldn't thus engage him directly. The sort of trickle damage that we get from the dire wolves, from the zombies, even as we run, is kind of irrelevant, as we can heal through it or otherwise armor our way through it and then turn upon the enemy as needed. Fortunately for us, it looks like Khalid El-Muntazir is locked in here. He is attempting to go after those Necropolis Knights and is thus heading towards our main line, rather than sticking together with his giant pile of reinforcements. That actually works out reasonably well for us. We will turn upon the dire wolves with our other units of Necropolis Knights, and start hitting Khalid El-Muntazir with a nice little Spirit Leech, while shadowing him with a unit of Tomb Guard with halberds. Looks like he's going to land, actually foregoing the continuation of the attack on the Necropolis Knights and switching to the Ushabti with Great Bow, which makes sense, because they'll be a lot weaker in melee, but that does mean he's going to get trapped here. And the first of our Hyro Titans, the Imperishable Effigy, will head towards him after that Spirit Leech, and he's now surrounded by snakes and by Tomb Guard with halberds, trapped in here, and soon to fall. Down to 50% of his HP already, and he doesn't have enough mass to escape the Hyro Titan. Absolutely beautiful. And a second Hyro Titan is moving in to help, but it looks like it's not going to be needed as Khalid El-Muntazir falls. And then there were two lords left remaining in the enemy armies. One back here is a Master Necro, and then we have another Vampire Lord. Oh, and we have another little Necro running around. Cute. Anyway, our skirmishers, our Necropolis Knights are engaged in a little bit of skirmish action as they continue sort of annoying the enemy's left flank. They're not going to be quite as ridiculous as they are in Khalid's army, perhaps, but they'll be ridiculous enough to annoy that flank without too much support. The Shem's Burning Gaze is unfortunately a little bit too close and thus missed the Vampire, but between the Spirit Leech and the hits from the Ushabti with Great Bow, said Vampire did not have a good day and dropped off pretty darn quickly, especially with a few hits from that Hyro Titan. The rest of the enemy army is still moving in, very, very slow, but it looks like while we're keeping the enemy's left flank busy, the right flank has effectively engaged in combat with our Tomb Guard here. Once again, they brought some Spirit Hosts. And I look upon with jealousy to the ghostly units that I feel like would be working nicely with our own, but oh well. Hopefully we can get them, and if we can't, we can't. It's not the biggest of deals. Maybe the Barrow Legion is alive, who knows? It looks like they got overrun and destroyed by the Ironclaw works, but, you know, it's a possibility. Alright, well, it looks like more and more units have arrived, and the Hyro Titan wades into the fray, stomping on Graveguard, Skeleton, and Zombie alike. And we're going to just slightly back off the various units of Ushabti with Great Bow, just so that the enemy can't use their numbers to get through our relatively limited melee line and, you know, engage them in melee. On the bright side, the bounce power is at about 80%, maybe even 85% in our favor already. Our snakes keep bouncing between the sort of elements of the enemy that are sort of isolated, I guess. I mean, they're not really all that isolated, but, well, they are now. They had greater numbers before we, you know, drove them down fairly considerably. Reinforcements are, however, still making their way onto the battle map, which means there is still at least 40, well, at least, there's still exactly 40 enemy units on the map, and more coming, so we just gotta cut our way through as many as we can. All good, though. Our Tomb Guard are holding the line perfectly well, and more importantly, the Golden Host of Mahrok should have no problem here. Over 22,000 HP, 117 armor, 50 melee defense. Funnily enough, we could have made these guys even heavier if we wanted to, but all good. Anyway, if the enemy wants to blob up like this, here come the snakes to take advantage of that. Oh, they're just so entertaining. Beautiful. Of course, they won't kill off everything, but they will significantly disrupt their formation and do a decent bit of damage, all the while applying poison to everybody that they can reach, and doing a little bit of damage, and then turning right back as soon as they please to run through the enemy ranks once more. Of course, more enemies are approaching, but the gigantic piles of skeletons, spears, and warriors are of little to no threat, especially without the necromancers there to support them. And I'm sure the necromancers would like to, but as soon as they approach the range of our Ushabti with Great Bow, the Ushabti target them. And especially without a steed to rely upon, the necromancers have a pretty bad day. There we go. One more charge maybe from the snakes through the right flank and the big blob of enemies, but just generally speaking through any of the enemies that we can reach here. Alright, the bounce power has shifted to about 95% in our favor. A couple more seconds and all the enemies will begin melting away. Gotta love moving the Necropolis Knights on the front lines like this while the enemy are pinned. Absolutely magnificent. And there we go. With that charge, I think the enemy's main line has completely collapsed and there is really not much left here. Well, there's actually a fairly decent little pile of units over on this blob still, though they are melting away. Could probably speed them on their way a little bit. They like skulls. Well, we can give them skulls. Here we go. Skullstorm in the midst of that formation. I'm gonna hold a little bit longer here with our Tomb Guard, but if the Skullstorm should start moving our way, we'll simply back off. And basically, all the enemy units below the Skullstorm get torn to shreds here. And I'm sure all the little bone splinters and stuff that gets sucked into that from the skeletons and such of the enemy probably helps the Skullstorm do a little bit more damage, at least in my head. That's really what counts. Anyway, the bounce power shifts fully in our favor, and we just clean up what enemy units remain. And of course, they stand no chance against the Necropolis Knights, Hyro Titans, or really anything that we had here in our army, and not enough elite from the enemy by the looks of it, who were relying on just masses of units in order to win the day, which is absolutely a viable strategy for the vampire counts. I've used it many a time myself, but again, the AI doesn't understand why or how to make that actually work for them, since it doesn't understand how to properly use the support units to empower the vampire counts, units, infantry, etc., to make them powerhouses. Anyway, there we go. With that, the battle is ours. Alright, there we go. Trading 100 troops for 8,700. Pretty darn solid, though a fair few will come back thanks to the Dead Rise, but I'm reasonably happy regardless. Panet got 50,000 damage and 652 kills. Pretty great work for a single, I believe, Skullstorm over the course of the battle. And we got 201 kills and 15,000 damage on the spooky skeletons there. Let's see, well, it looks like the Sand Skimmers beat the Dune Surfers rather, by a little bit, whereas the Imperishable Effigy was slightly beaten this time by the Scales of Eternity. 17,000 damage brings the Silent Watchers ahead of the other two Shapti with Great Bow by a fairly wide margin, and damn, Casket of Souls cresting that 100,000 damage, 110,000 damage in fact, and this time around as well. Plus solid work out of the Tomb Bark, 17k, lovely. I guess we'll take the Endless March. It's not like we really need the tiny amount of healing. I wish it was an option to get more Canopic Jars here, but it's only for Conquest, so oh well, Endless March. Oh, right, oh wow, -5 control all provinces. That's not great, but we can deal with it at this point. I honestly forgot about the Whispers of the Eyeless thing. We are up to, it's been a while since we saw the last point. Oh well, I obey. Will this get the Prophet quest up and running? Warrior ooh, yes, I've been wanting one of these. Okay, that's great. Heavenward Halls is ours. Arachnos destroyed, enemy killed in battle, Dynasty researched, ambusher discovered, Charnel Valley necrotected. No Prophet quest yet. Okay, well, screw you too, game. Obelisk of Petra. Huh, interesting. A tall inscribed obelisk that channels the light of Petra, forming a fragile barrier that pushes back the encroaching powers of the realms of chaos. That's kind of cool. We got a unique sort of settlement in the realms of chaos. It's absolute trash because you can't upgrade it and it does nothing for us, but it was kind of interesting nonetheless. Yo. Are you able to immediately get to the Eyrie of the Watcher? No, and while we will besiege it, I think maybe we can ignore it for now and then head southward instead. You're gonna pop into raiding stance, move down here, we gotta get to that library after all. And, actually, if these guys go outside of the settlement, that might be interesting as well. It's not like we fought Khorne. Anyway, I would like to now abandon the settlement as it, well, I mean, we don't care about it. Ooh, let's do a quick Tzeentch check. In case there are other Tzeentch factions that we're not at war with. No, but we're looking okay there. And a Necrotect check while we're at it. What do we have here? Karn, Ingenuity, and Genius Architect. Both great, but not what we're looking for. Hey, another Cavalier. Alright, perfect. We wanted you, and in fact, King Thutep, you're gonna move down to Qatar. We'll get the Cavalier right here. And we only need 2 more of those guys. I'm just gotta make sure that they all have the right mounts. Okay, well, we'll do it later. When this army is ready to move on in. Next tech we should pick, I guess we should just move through all of the hero capacity and just generally speaking. Yeah, fine. Let's do at least 1 more patronage of Ketep. At least these ones will be complete and then we'll deal with those as we go. Alright. Looks good to me. Settra, you are going to, I guess, wipe out these guys for good now. I'll probably run, but, well, what can you do, whatever. Should be auto-resolvable. I assume this guy won't attack us immediately if we capture this. Huh. Okay, well, okay, we're obviously auto-resolving this. Yeah, they have some damaged black orcs, but it's not enough for us to be bothering with them. Too pathetic. Heck of a lot of damage to our army, though. Occupy. Alrighty, and hey, wades through gore, yes. Those auto-resolves are really working for us. Settra is now up to a max of 13,000 HP with a plus 500% battle healing cap. Like, he's actually basically invincible now. He can take so much damage, it's insane. If we could, that's with regen, mind you. I wonder if we could get him any more kind of regenerative capabilities. I wonder if there's a rare thing with recover somewhere out there. It would be nice, but anyway. We could also... I never got him a hero with frenzy. I kind of regret it now, but oh well. And oh, that put you up to rank 50, didn't it? Alright, well, let's go over my dead body, which gives us another 6% HP. We have Returned in Madness and Embalmed in Elixir, and I think that's, I guess, the maximum amount of HP we can have, which at 1, 3, 4, 10 is pretty darn good. Moonmaker, for obvious reasons, and then Desert Strike leaves us with 8 points to play around with. Now, Devastating Charge is nice at 30 charge bonus, but Settra already has 206. His charge bonus is so high that it's effectively irrelevant at this point. We could pick... Okay, we'll obviously pick up Blade Master for the 12 points here. Indomitable is completely useless. And Ancient Tyrant I don't particularly care for because we rarely, if ever, sack. Restful Interment is fine because it removes wounds when we're less than 25% HP. But the odds of this actually happening are extremely low. As nice as that point is. The extra armor isn't horrible. Though Settra's armor is pretty good, I'm actually inclined to say that Evasion might be a worthy pickup here. We do spam Nerus quite a bit, so maybe we'll go at least grab Evasion, because Settra's still on a chariot, and there is, you know, the possibility of him getting surrounded. We have the maxed out chariot stuff, so there isn't anything else, really. Yeah, alright, let's grab Evasion. Let's go for... I don't really care for Assyrian's Incantation of Vengeance. Again, it's too costly compared to a Skullstorm. And admittedly, Settra with that massive miscast that he now has is probably not going to be casting all that much, but free evasion's free evasion. Alright, so with that, we can either ignore the Skullstorm or put 1 point in it. Could grab the armor. Could grab the Restful Interment. You know, I'm gonna hold off on this. I want to see whether Settra can actually damage himself significantly by miscasting in his current state or not. Because if he can't, then we can just grab Skullstorm and have him casting as well in addition to his priest. Though, how many Skullstorms do we really need on field at once? I do wonder. These guys are fine, so we'll ignore them. Alright, Panat, back to you. Alright, first of all, having lost all of those armies, how are you feeling? You're willing to peace treaty, but not quite willing to be our vassal as yet. The Library of Charybdis. Here. Yeah, not there. Alright, that's fine. If we were to attack you here at the Temple of Mordig, which is a tier 3 settlement, it would be worth more dig. So go here to Temple of Mordig. Let's give this a try. And these guys should, in theory, follow you. And I think, fun though that was, there isn't any need really to fight this again, so we'll probably just auto-resolve this. It will damage us, but with the destruction of all those armies, we might just be able to wrangle this vassalage. And if it doesn't work, we'll just cancel it and kill them all. How about that? That work for everybody? Auto-resolve. Free potion of strength, I guess, and occupy. Alright, then... with the destruction of those guys and these armies, this faction is significantly weakened. It's their units we want. We don't really care about anything else. Then I would like you to peace out for the Library of Charybdis. To go back into your... you take all your money as well. That should weaken you. Did we go for the non-aggression pact? Maybe. But then we'd have to cancel it if the other thing doesn't work. Yeah, you know, I'll just take all their money. Alright, let's do this. This puts us to moving to minus 69, which isn't too bad. The Defenders of the Great Plan won't like this, but maybe that's okay. Then we will build a military structure here. We will cancel the... okay, we're already not collecting income. And we'll grab the mausoleum shortly, and then see if we can just vassalize them out of that. Granted, this will mean that a bunch of vampiric corrupted locations are nearby, but hopefully it won't matter. And again, we can always turn on them and kill them all if it's if it comes down to it, right? True death and all that. You, Hakor, keep going this way. Rakash, you guys are... okay, how are you doing now? Okay, wait, actually, critical thing. We're gonna grab a new dynasty as soon as... okay, somebody's moving. Come on. Come on. This is Hakor. Did he stop moving while we're in that menu? Hakor, please. Okay, now he's done. And a new dynasty. Oh, all of our money. There it goes. And all of our jars. Our precious, precious jars. Could have used those jars to make items, but what can you do? Need those dynasties. How long until we got caught up? 2 turns. So that means we could still keep recruiting. Alright, how do we want to do this? So Rakash... We're gonna have to trade some units around. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna say we'll move you and then get a new guy. Okay, wait, what do we need to recruit? Potentially for Kotep, so okay. Let's put a random lord in here until we get Kotep on the field. A decent likelihood we have to disband Kotep anyway, because he'll be... let's get this Resurgent Memories one. Because he'll most likely be... screwed up in terms of his point attribution, but anyway, Root Marcher, Canopic Jar Hoarder. I guess we could get at least a 10B. A 10B. We could get a Renowned and Feared for the additional recruit rank as well. I think there's... oh, no, we can't. We'll be 1 point short. Although, we do generate a decent amount of XP, so maybe that won't matter all that much. Alright, fine. Let's grab... none of this helps, really, so whatever. And then on to Renowned and Feared. Okay, you sit there. And I would like you to recruit 2 and 2 for now. I'm not entirely sure what exactly it's going to look like, but you are going to trade the Hyro Titans to him. This is going to be the start of Kotep's army. Not the entire thing. And does Kotep need Tomb Barks? I'm going to say yes. A couple of Tomb Barks here. Then I would like you to get to the Cathayan factions, not the Vres, to Agents of the Moon. Actually, that's a question. Wait. 76? Oh, wow, the Moonbird cost increased. What about the Jade Order? Oh, your stuff's cheaper, but you can't build Moonbirds, because of course you can't. Alright, fine. Grab a couple of War Drums, then. Alright, that'll be nice. Might reduce the Hyro Titan count by 1, to be perfectly honest, but it would just in a bit. What about Necrotects? I guess we'll need a Genius Architect here regardless. Let's awaken Necrotect then. Right here. 829 for 1, good lord. Okay, well, not much we could do about it. And we've maxed out all the techs with those guys, so we can only wake them now. Happen to need a lot of Necrotects everywhere, don't we? And you can now transfer to deliver these guys. Transfer to deliver? Move to deliver these guys. So go here. And then you can sort of stay nearby. Ogres will be declared war upon in a couple of turns. We were waiting for the recruitment. 3 turns. Alright, at the time that Kotep comes up, and which works for us. There you go, past this. And deliver to Rakash, and trade some troops around, because this is in fact the start of 2 new armies. Alrighty. Rakash. Okay, no, not Rakash. Scorpion King. We could go after Mahrak. Honestly, I'm kind of on the fence about bothering with them. Like, we're gonna have to send multiple armies down here just to deal with them, and all we get out of them is a couple of extra, you know, Tomb Guard, but the special Tomb Guard aren't really all that different from regular Tomb Guard. They're slightly better with a special ability. These guys are at least a little bit more armored. Let me just double check. The ones that we're missing are presumably the... something Mahrak, presumably. Hawk Legion, Guardians, not the Golden Host. Mahrak Guard. Yeah, they don't really have anything that's particularly interesting about them. They're just stronger. Do we want to waste, like, I don't know, a bunch of turns fighting these guys? And it's a lot of like-on-like fighting, you know? It's just Tomb Kings versus Tomb Kings, which admittedly isn't the most interesting here. I think I don't care enough. I think maybe we'll just vassalize them, the old-fashioned way. By which I mean trade them the Amber Skull and thereby vassalize them. We can always if we feel like it at some point, we can always cancel the vassalage agreement. Do we want to take their money? Tribute to the king? Yeah, sure, why not? Amber Skull... Is there anything we need to do with this? I don't think so. Like so.
Very well.
Alright, lovely. Frankly, it would have been nice if we had traded the Obelisk of the Gods. We still will go after these guys, though, because they have a landmark, an actual pyramid that we need to build as it's part of our victory objectives. This will allow you to instead send the Scorpions southward, where we can find some rats to fight, and which should be a little bit more interesting. Khalida, you're going to attack this in a second, but we should actually probably move to doing this in order. rather than whatever disorder this was. Rakash, okay, that's not you. You've just moved. Oh, Kalita was next anyway. Okay. Alright, I think we're gonna fight these ogres since it's a rarity. Declare war. Have all of our friendly little vassals declare war on them as well. Not for long, though, as they will be destroyed shortly. Like so. And then move towards the ogres. Alright, so we'll have... Oh, look at that. Look at all that. 4 slave giants, pretty good. I think this will be fun. Pyrrhic victory. Maybe these guys will give us a much more fighty fight than the Cult of Sigmar did. Go. Alrighty, here we go. The serpent strikes indeed, or will soon strike. Though, I think this will be a pretty good fight, unlike the Imperials, who stood no chance. 4 slave giants and, just generally speaking, a ton of those ogres are going to be an issue here. I had previously been contemplating whether we want to give Kalita more Necropolis Knights of the spear and board variety, as opposed to getting some halberds in there for a little bit of anti-large action. But in this particular case, in this particular battle, the halberds, I'm sure, would have come in handy. Not that the Venom Knights of Asaph care about what they're facing off against here. We've seen them absolutely tear through Demigryph Knights. So it's not like the Venom Knights, at least, will need that anti-large on them. Well, they've got 83 melee attack anyway, so they're, the bonus versus a large wouldn't do too much for them anyway. Anyway, this is just a sort of prelude to the actual battle where the reinforcements are the sort of main stack, but we will quickly overrun the enemy here while Kalita duels the enemy Slaughtermaster in the midst of the enemy formation. But obviously, the enemy stood no chance here. And we even sent the Sepulchral Stalkers in. They're a little bit harder to pick out in the mass of snakes. It's all snakes. It's snakes all the way down. But anyway, it's just sent them all in so that the Sepulchral Stalkers' range damage didn't kill off our own. Anyway, that little army is done for us. We're going to speed it up and wait for the reinforcements to arrive while we take up positions with our piles of skeleton spears, who, with some decent veterancy, are up to 40 and 57. Not too bad. Their armor's still quite low, but we can certainly use them. Once we get those Xandri Black Shields up and running, we can probably buff them up enough that they can hold the line nearly as well as the Tomb Guard can. Anyway, big old blob of enemies moving on in. We pop a Skull Storm, mostly just to delay them a little bit, as it's not going to be doing too much in the way of damage to the enemy ogres. What will be doing plenty of damage, however, is the Sepulchral Stalkers. We've seen them knock out large units with those shotgun blasts of theirs with gusto before. And while they'll be a little bit dangerous to our own skeleton units, well, that just means possibly more activations of the Realm of Souls, so I think it'll work just fine. And there we go, our Sepulchral Stalkers are firing away, while the Necropolis Knights close the distance with the first of the enemy elements, tearing through those Lead Belchers and leaving the Sacral Serpents, summoned by Kalita, to chase them down. Kalita herself, leaving the Venom Knights of Asaph and the other Necropolis Knights, head towards 2 units I would mark even more threatening than the Slave Giants here, and that's the 2 units of Hunters. They, with their anti-large harpoons, are actually pretty solid in terms of dishing out range damage, as I recall from playing Ogres. And thus we certainly don't want them to get their harpoons just piercing through our lines of Necropolis Knights. So Kalita will take the first one down rather quick, ignoring the giant that attempted to attack her. And after this hunter is down, she'll move towards the second. An enemy lord, a Slaughtermaster, or whatever it was, yeah, it was a Slaughtermaster, it gets torn to shreds by the range damage of the Sepulchral Stalkers, and the giants are still, you know, getting held down, pinned by the spears, and thus also taking damage from our Stalkers. And it looks like the giants aren't too happy about that either. Their leadership is sufficiently low that while being pinned like this and taking damage from the Stalkers, they're in a bad way. I note that the Stalkers, however, are running out of ammunition here. This one is completely dry, interestingly enough. We did refill the Black Mambas here with a reload from the Bone Giant, and that's another one of the reasons I wanted a couple more Bone Giants in Khalida's army. At least that way we can keep the Bone Giant sort of stalking, hidden, and back behind the rest of the enemy, the main force. But if we're fighting like 4 stacks at once, which does tend to happen periodically depending on the enemy faction, then we'll be likely to run out of ammunition, can return the stalking serpents back to their Bone Giant base, re-up their ammunition, and then go back into the fray. I think it's a nice concept, and where possible I like to, you know, sort of not repeat the exact same army compositions with the same lords. So yeah, previously Khalida would have had her Legion of the Asp and tons of those skeleton archers, and while I don't mind potentially doing another army like that in a different army, I want to try this whole Bone Giant thing out. Alrighty, anyway, the balance of power shifts to about 90% in our favor. We're still firing away at the man-eaters with ogre pistols with same said Bone Giant, as it is still a very threatening unit, and those pistols of theirs can certainly bring down Spokal Stalker and Necropolis Knight alike, if we let them. That said, all these giant units are not finding nearly as much purchase as I had figured they might compared to the Imperials. And Khalida's army is once again doing pretty good. Khalida herself does get surrounded a little bit by a blob of ogre bulls with dual weapons, but she wasn't really looking to fight them, and is in fact going to move away and ignore those pathetic weaklings, while instead going for one of the giants. Down a half HP, but I'm sure that'll drop significantly lower. The giant staggers as Khalida starts attacking it. And keep in mind, every single turn we build and upgrade more of those Hierophant's Bibliotecas, so every single one of our lords and characters will get basically, I don't know, 1 or 2% stronger with every single turn that passes, as long as we keep conquering territory, that is. Yeah, Settra, Khalida, all of our lords, walk off, will become absolutely monstrous over the course of the next dozen or so turns, especially as we continue upgrading places or our settlements to tier 5, and thus getting the Hierophant's Bibliotecas up to that tier as well. Anyway, with that, the enemy army shatters, the giants are done for, and the ogre bulls are done for as well. That perhaps not so surprising, because, you know, ogre bulls are really fragile units. Yeah, really nice fight, and I'm glad the ogres were in this random little mountain range, because it allowed us to fight them a bit. Alrighty, there we go. Solid work. The giants were certainly able to deliver a few hard blows, and it looks like we lost a couple of the Necro Serpents, or the Necropolis Knights, but otherwise pretty okay. Khalida hunted down the enemy hunters so that they couldn't, you know, use their harpoons to great effectiveness against us, and even with half her army made up of skeleton garbage, it's nowhere near enough to get the Realm of Souls active. Over 100,000 damage once again on the Venom Knights of Asaph. Good lord, this unit is absolutely insane. And yeah, once again, worthy of a tier 5. I'm surprised that they got this much kills and damage in a ogre fight, considering it was largely ogre bulls and giants and stuff we had to deal with. Solid work out of the Riders of Kuaf with 41,000 damage. And let's see, for these guys, oh wow, 38,000 damage on the Sandstone Serpents. Very nice. Alright. Oh, we never named it. Oh, right. This is the Tomb Bark that kept causing us problems with the potential auto-resolves. I was about to say we never named it, but do we even want to name it? Anyway, wipe these ogres out. Auto-resolve this. Let me get some more damage in the actual fight. Not surprising at this point to occupy. Alrighty, and we can immediately go into Worship of Construction Reduction, go for the Mausoleum, and delete you two to be replaced with Tusks and all that stuff. We'll keep the growth and stuff for a couple of turns, and we'll keep this just so that when Khalida leaves, she can, you know, let's just upgrade these so I don't have to look at them, so that when Khalida leaves, she can travel faster, as she has to return to Lamia, by which point it should be upgradable to tier 4, at which point we should be able to get what we want here. Which is nice. Alright, enemy killed in battle, enemy killed in battle, and... Huh, is this faction not destroyed? Well, whatever. Anyway, Mahrock now serves us. This is going to bother me unless we fully wipe out. Oh, there's wine here. Ah, interesting. I think wine is one of the things we don't have. There is another wine somewhere up here. It better not be these guys that have it. Still kind of inclined to try to vassalize them. Not so sure that it's going to work. But hey, this is at least trending upwards to minus 69, which is pretty decent. At least, but minus 175 is not something we can overcome as yet, so I don't know. May not work out, but anyway, let's keep going. I really wanted those ghosties. Maybe it'll be better if we try to get another different vampiric faction. Anyway, King Alcazar, you are going... Oh, I just realized. You know what? We actually do want more mages or the Lich Priests rather than the Tomb Princes right now. Because we have no mage in Alcazar's army and he does want and or need one. Keep going though, bud. Let's upgrade you while we're at it. And looks like these guys are attempting to rebuild their armies. Can't be letting that happen. I don't know if we're keeping these territories, but I do know that we'll probably need defenses as there are Skaven all over the place, and who knows. Skaven orcs, they'll jump around with their underway stance, and we'll just have to deal with them. Alright, you guys are waiting for a couple more turns. Jocht is waiting until potentially we declare war on these guys, but otherwise we'll bring our units for a Petra army. Keepers don't need to move, but scouts do. So scout. Oh, and cat needs to move as well. Alright, scout go here. And Cat, you are going to join this army. There we go. Now we have 2 Necrotects in here once more. Beautiful. And this army will be ready to go to wipe these guys out next turn as well. And I guess we'll level up when we're there. Alright, and that's all we gotta do other than building buildings, so let's do that real quick. And I do mean quick, because there shouldn't be all that much. Tier 5 Grand Pyramid, yes please, and we won't be able to do the Hierophant's Bibliotheca until we deal with that. I guess we no longer need the burial pits, so we're just sort of free to go for a couple more of these. Let's do 1 and 2. I wonder if it might be worth more to get treasure tombs, just because they will give us additional, not so much the loot, but the items potentially that we care about. Some nice items might be nice, go figure. Hidden Sanctum. Maybe here we'll go for the treasure tomb. It's only +1, admittedly, so we'd have to build a lot of these for these things to count. I was originally planning to replace all the Golden Age monuments with treasure tombs, but frankly, there's still a fair bit of research to do, so that seems somewhat unlikely at this point, at least. Go for the treasure tomb, why not? Alright, Eastern Hekara, let's upgrade the ancient whatever's buildings. East Barrier Idols, let's go for the Tomb City. World's Edge Foothills, yes, definitely the Hierophant's Bibliotheca, I want those everywhere. And keep on upgrading, start with the U. Because you can upgrade 2 as opposed to 1. Alright, Bitter Wind. Tremendously bitter. Go you. Actually, both of you. Ha, okay. There we go, easy enough. Eastern Badlands, same sort of situation. Start with a lone column, finish up with more of these little upgrades, and we still have money remaining, go. Ooh, but we do have a few territories now actually losing control. But what can you do? Ooh, okay, so these I was going to delete, but I guess we'll wait until, well, we build the Pyramidions, but also Khalida will want to move through them, so yeah. Doom Mountain, yes to the Mortuary Sanctum, and I guess we still have this guy here, so I guess we don't need to delete that. I guess. Alrighty, build the Mortuary Sanctum and then upgrade to you, and then everything else will just have to wait. Alright, we can't build these 2 here. Well, actually, we'll only need to build the 1, so I guess we're still free to build the Undead Quarrymen. Alright, Mountains of Dawn, still being ignored. Desolation of Nagash, you shouldn't be collecting income in the first place. And just upgrade this so I don't have to look at you. Shaded Away. What is this again? Oh, let's upgrade these so I don't have to look at them either. They cost basically nothing anyway. Dragonhorn Mines, you're to be traded to these guys for vassalage. These places are also all to be traded for stuff. Temple of Mordig will be built up. Portal of Twilight, yes, we will build you up in order to get as many defenses here as possible, though we will build a Royal Burial Chamber because we want those everywhere. Frankly, it would be probably still appropriate to build the defensive pyramid here. And it's going to be a very strong garrison regardless. I doubt it'll fall. Wait. Provides garrison bone giant. Does the higher level provide no garrison? Huh. That's weird. Why did they do that? Okay, that's kind of bizarre. Nonetheless, go for the Grand Pyramid here. Defensive settlement or not. What do we have here in Misty Mountain? I guess it's more Pyramidians. And I guess here we no longer need these because Settra has moved on, right? And there's nobody else here, so delete, and these Pyramidians, or at least one of them can be upgraded. Nope, should start with a U. Like so, and then like so. Alright, looking good. Which place was this? Sour Crags, Dust Road, you're up next. Alright, so we have the temporary defenses here, and I think, funnily enough, we're going to keep them, because there's a decent likelihood we'll have to redeclare war on these guys if the vassalage doesn't work, so may as well. Otherwise, we can feel free to delete all of these things, start collecting income, and replace them with Pyramidians. Cursed City, Lamia, 2 more turns, so you're looking good, and then Temple of Mordig, I'm not going to bother upgrading anything, meaning, assuming that there's no missions to be taken, which there are not, we're free to skip on by, and ooh, commandment available. But where? That was probably this place, which will be abandoned, which we don't care about. End turn. Alright, sacrifice to Matlan, Hag Grief, there's another Lich Priest capacity. Oh, an unusual location, feels like it's been a while. What do we have here? Dark Gift, oh, another Chaos thing. Oh, I remember this one. The one that gives us the, Yeah, somebody posted this in the Discord, and I was quite shocked at the bonuses that this thing offers, which are pretty nice, but I'm still maintaining the whole sort of we are not using the Gifts of Chaos in this campaign thing, so we will get rid of it. In another campaign, perhaps. It is a really nice one. And get some super elite armies out of this, but not here. Settra says no. Alrighty, next we will, I guess, go through dynasties again and get another Lich Priest capacity. Priesthood of Sokth, and then we'll only actually have one of those left. Prince Meshep, you're gonna pop into King Thutep's army next. For now. And let's see what we're looking at here. Priest. Hey, another Cavalier. Perfect. Alright, if we just keep getting these. Ooh, Necrotech check? No. No dice. Never dice. Cavalier. Alright, and we are at 1, 2, 3. This will be 4, and then we are 1 short, plus another mage, maybe, or another necrotech. I haven't decided. Frankly, it doesn't matter all that much. You can't reach Kotar anyway, so you're going to go channel and move right here. And what if you'll be able to reach the place? We shall see. You'll also need the Sphinx Herald, but we'll deal with that later. Anyway, Settra, you're still quite damaged, but it's Settra's army. Does it matter that it's damaged? I feel that it does not. We're probably free to just attack this little army. Now let's level you. Okay, well, we'll leave those points on Settra for now until I've made my decision. I would like, however, to keep buffing up these little charioteers of ours. Still get the Blade Master, even though tankiness is, paramount. And after that, I'm gonna say probably go for full plate armor first and devastating charge second. We should probably get you two, since you're on chariots and in the fight, that blade of steel blood, the healing thing, the thing that gives them the hunger. Alrighty, that was the weirdest way to say it. Spring the Trap and the True Grandmaster, and might as well max out Spring the Trap as soon as we can. And then Lich Priest, still relatively low level, but we did get him in the army a little bit late. We got 5 points. Honestly, I'm kind of inclined to start moving towards Vicious Curses rather than anything else. Let's do that. A Runic Staff, I think, is much more critical. Incantation of Preservation, and then onwards towards Vicious Curses, because it gives us a casket buff faction-wide. Ooh, 1 more turn until Kotep is back as well. Anyway, let's just quickly grab a couple of these lovely Hunger Blades. If you're wondering why I keep grabbing the Hunger weapons, it's because Hunger is another source of regen other than regen, so, they'll stack. And Blade of Antarhak. Like so. Alright, we'll give them to both of these guys. Yeah. Alright, we'll give them to both of these guys. Necrotect. Another Blade of Antarhak. And Tomb Prince. Go figure, another Blade of Antarhak. Doesn't give any kind of sort of contact effects, but that's fine. It also does mean that it won't override the Overwhelm on the Necrotect, which I appreciate. You, leave the Sour Bay and kill Mortgin Wrathbringer for another book. These guys are gonna say vassals don't join, but obviously we saw last time it's just a thing that they can't declare war on these guys, or won't. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Pyrrhic victory, what I like to see with Settra's army, and we do remain hurt here, so let's see how we do. Go, go, go. Alrighty, here we go. The Black Creek Raiders hold another book in the gash, and Settra is going to collect this one personally. I mean, I suppose he collected the one at Morgheim personally as well. Anyway, Settra starts out by being a complete menace and moving through the enemy line. He's pretty darn quick on that chariot now, and very difficult to stop, certainly. We do have to be a little bit more careful than we perhaps might normally be with this particular army, because the combination of Black Guard of Nagarond and the Chosen Aspiring Champions and Witch Elves in particular is a very, very dangerous one. Usually we'd be able to send in our chariots to annoy the enemy flanks, but we can't do that here because as soon as they charge in through those Witch Elves, the Witch Elves will apply the Madness of Cain, the chariots would get trapped in melee and then get cut down by the Black Guard of Nagarond or the Chosen or the Aspiring Champions or whatever. And that's alright though. Now, this army has a tendency to let the chariots shine a little bit more than the Tomb Guard and such. It will be nice for the Tomb Guard to make their way forward and be the sort of key elements of it. Settra, of course, continues to menace the entire enemy army and best as he can. He's up to 55 kills, which isn't anything crazy, but his damage is up to 21k before the battle has even begun, a minute in. And keep in mind, without casting any sort of damaging spells. There we go, charging into the enemy range units, or the enemy Reaper Bolt throwers now, and continuing on his merry way. Beautiful. Oh, that must be so irritating. I do wish we could get him all the way up to, I think Tamarkan gives a mass as a reward or as a defeat trait in SFO. I could be mistaken, but I think that's the way, and even more mass for Settra's chariot. It would be just lovely, wouldn't it? Alright, beautiful. Well, I don't think anybody's stopping Settra anytime soon, so we can just keep moving through whatever we please. But the rest of the battle is joined as well. Some of the heavier elements of the enemy army have made it towards us. A Dragon Ogre in a fight with the Sekhmetra Sphinx, and I believe the Sphinx of Usekv is currently in the fight against the enemy Giant, while below their feet we have the Tomb Guard facing off against Aspiring Champions, Chosen Black Guard, Marauders, and all the sort of melee troops that the enemy brought. All nice and visible once again under the beautiful maps that we get out of the desert here. And we got plenty of the Tomb King cities. This is a pretty nice one too. And just to look away, I guess this is supposed to be an island, right? Because this is technically a sea battle. Well, it's a really nice one. I think we got more city elements in this little island fight than we do in many a random desert map, although I suppose there they'd be more likely to be buried beneath the dunes. Anyway, the bounce power has shifted to about 85% in our favor. Of course, the big boys, Chaos Spawn, Giant, and Dragon Ogre, are still in the fight. But I think Settra has, by and large, cleared most of the enemy melee units that he's needed to help with, and is instead going to move towards the enemy lord, Mortgin Wrathbringer of Haskanesh, to bring him down. Our chariots, of course, as soon as the enemy Witch Elves and other such units had joined the fray, were willing to move on in and obliterated the enemy range lines, whether it be the enemy artillery or dark shards, and then stepped up to make sure that no other units returned. Settra pushing the enemy lord around with those horses of his. And let's see, the enemy lord is unbreakable. Alright, well, Settra, you've got a little bit more work to do as you and your horses eat the marauders. There we go. And then this is just mean. Again, every time I see things like this, it always reminds me of original Grimgore in the sort of the first game's release, when before he had a reduction or charge resistance, and before he had additional mass and such, just getting pushed around like this non-stop by every single lord on a horse. It was so mean to poor Grimgore. Anyway. There you go, you're gonna take a shot at Settra. Settra's at 13,000 HP, and I wonder if you can actually out-heal your damage. How much damage do you actually do? Okay, so from that shot, it looks like he hit for about 100... As somebody, a regular chariot knocks him down as well. This is 781 missile strength. We saw him, I wanted to see, take a shot at Settra, and Settra seems to take about 125 roughly damage, or 130 damage per hit. He regenerates, I think, faster than any damage than this little fella can do, which is kind of hilarious. And yeah, oh wow, Settra's up to 210 kills and 48,000 damage. Anyway, this guy is this guy is done. This was just amusing to me. And there we go, eaten by the horses after all those pointless quarrels into them. Absolutely magnificent. And maybe Settra stopped. He yoinked the book and was giving it a quick read while that guy was shooting him, and Settra was just ignoring him. Magnificent. Alrighty, there we go. A lovely little fight there. The dragon... the giant escaped? I didn't even realize that. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter because they'll be dead next turn, but yeah, nice little fight we had ourselves there. The star of the show, I think, that time was definitely Settra, being an absolute menace to the enemy army, and racking up 5,000 damage, but also a much bigger damage delta's gold value, or 50,000 damage, 5.6k damage delta's gold value, which is certainly a heck of a contribution. And otherwise, and I don't think anybody was even close to that level of menace in this particular battle. Though Sekhmetra and the line of Petra both did quite well. Let's see, we got the Imperishable Guard and the Tomb Watchers. They both had around 12k, which was solid. And as for the chariots, we have the Wheels on Wheels, who got 11k. The damage values weren't quite as high. Boneboat and Boat of Charon both did well as well. But anyway, the damage values weren't as high because it's a relatively small army, and small unit counts as well, because we had things like Chosen, Aspiring Champions, and all those monstrous units and all that stuff. Not the same thing as fighting droves of skeletons or zombies or Skaven slaves or whatnot. Anyway, we 4.3k. I mean, I'm not sure that we care that much about the money anymore, but the campaign movement range is still nice, so I think we'll still take that. Endless March it is. And we will have to hunt these guys down, but here we go, 5th book. It is the most useless one, the Sandstorm one, but it's better than nothing. Casualty punishment after sacking or occupying. Well, the occupying would be nice. Probably would be nicer in the early game. I figure that the casualty punishment rate that we currently have is probably close to max. At least I think so. I'll resolve. Wow, of course, horrifically damage our chariots. Why don't you? And I get another turn of Endless March. Alrighty, 3,000 gold, and then destroy what remains of that army, if you please. Auto-resolve. And down it goes. Alright, now we could potentially hit here, but then I think we won't be able to reach Magru Khan next turn, though. I mean, it's not like we'd really care if we got materials to see or anything like that at this point, so I think we're okay. And just land, move through Sour Bay, and move on to Magru Khan. Do we have stacks here? Yes, we do. Alright. And it's a tier 5, so they should have some decent defenders by the looks of it. We shall see. You know, at this point, though, I think that, again, Settra is a chariot guy, so I think we'll power up his chariots with those banners as soon as we have the spare canopic jars to do so. We'll have to let the Lichbone Pennant go, I think. Well, either that or the Banner of Eternal Flame, but frankly I think that buffs more units than the single unit having magical attacks, which is nice. It's very nice. It's just that I think Settra deserves to have super chariots, or as strong as chariots as we can make. hope that made sense. Anyway, grab the mausoleum here. How's that vassalage looking? Still minus 175, eh? Temple of Mordig. Yeah, not super fond of us as yet, but the relationship is improving, slowly but surely. We will have to trespass through his territory, which is a little bit unfortunate. Probably should have asked for minus 288. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen, was it? Alright, well, a single trespass through his territory isn't going to make too much of a difference. Thegan's errantry? Huh, there's still Bretonnians around here. That's quite interesting. You know what, Panet, oh, right, I was going to say you can stay here for a little bit, but you do need to head towards the book. That hasn't changed. Alright, so go right to the edge of this territory then. And it might actually take a couple of... Wow, this guy had a lot of armies. He was doing good before we screwed him over. But who knows, maybe he'll be doing good again. I'd actually really prefer not to trespass, but don't think we're going to bother going around. It's ridiculous. Maybe we can trespass through Thegan's errantry instead by going one turn. It's not like we care about having Bretonnian vassals here. At least I don't think. Anyway, Hakor, hey, great little fight for you. Kill Xarian here, and then keep going to Orky territory. To resolve. I assume that didn't kill anything. Really? Okay, I almost forgot how much the auto-resolve hates us. I guess we'll just have to heal up here. Oh, free Banner of Swiftness, though. Worth it. Okay, go into Great Dynasties and keep on moving. Alright, looking good to me. Walk off. You are probably not going to be able to reach the enemy settlement. What is this? Alright, we've been here. Oh, Citadel of the Iron Knight has already fallen. It's a ruin. Well, good. We're near to the 9th library already. Rakash, you are about to meet up with the other friend, and wait, declare war 2 turns. And then Katep is 1 turn, just to double check? Yes. Perfect. Sekhet, go... Wait, can you? And you guys have to travel together, because I don't trust these guys not to immediately kill you. Alright, yeah, there we go. You guys just stay together for now. And I did the Necrotech check unless I'm mistaken. I did indeed. Alright. Who's next? Scorpion King. Go for the rats down here. They're gonna have to be dealt with. I'm willing to bet they don't like us very much, and they are right beside us. Khalida, you're going all the way back to Lamia where you will complete your army. At long last. I mean, I guess we could have sent you... Oh, maybe I should have sent you down here to deal with these guys from this direction. Yeah, we'll see. I imagine it'll still be fine. Alright, so that was Thutep, that was Khalida, Lamazash. You're ready to go, ain't ya? Alright. And you can't reach Mangrove Port in 1 turn, so let's go into Entomb Beneath the Sands. Go here to the other side. And quickly, I guess, grab a free skeleton archer while you're at it, so that you can attack next turn. Alcazar, you are going to... That looks pretty good. Oh, they've got a Ragnarok, they've got a Savage Giant, and I still don't have a mage for you. Well, I'm just gonna have to deal with it, sir. We do have points for you, though, so Sun-Scorched Bones into Reanimate into... Okay, guess Chariot's Dune Rider is gonna have to be the first thing. Definitely Resurrect, and we do have enough points, I guess, to get the Tomb Guard buff as well. The Legion of the Asp does tempt me as well, but Unfading Memory. Alright. That should be a decent little power-up. You two probably want to go through to Tomb Strike as fast as you can, so go through Hard to Hit first, because, I mean, you're always kind of stuck in. And grab Conqueror, of course, as well. 1, 2, 3, and then grab Tomb Strike. And you can have Embalmed as in Elixir. Alright, let's do one more fight. We're rapidly running out of time, but I do think this one will be a fun fight worth fighting. And the enemy should fight, because Pyrrhic Victory and high casualties with all those monsters should be a toughie against the chariots, all those Black Orcs as well. Plus we're outnumbered, which ain't so great for this particular army. Go. Alrighty, here we go. Previously, King Alcazar faced off against the orcs and managed to box them in a sort of canyon sort of deal and then surround them from both sides. We do still have a choke point available to us here, though that same strategy is probably not going to be quite as possible here. And especially because we got a lot more elites to contend with. We got black orcs, we got trolls, giant, Ragnarok, and that's just one army. We also got colossal squigs and more trolls and other such things in this one. Should be a pretty fun fight, is what I'm getting at. Anyway, Alcazar will trundle forth together with his tomb princes on those chariots, a little bit more tanky now that they have the hunger, and then they will eventually get even more tanky as we give them some regeneration items, and thus unlikely to just get killed on those chariots. They will unfortunately simply get bogged down fighting the sort of more massive units, as this little enemy army out here doesn't really have the sort of piles of infantry that we'd be wanting to fire at, but that's alright. These guys can annoy the enemy army while our Tomb Guard move into position and our Skeleton Archer chariots do a little bit of annoying them with that solid 120 armor sundering missile damage that they've got in this particular force. And again, I'm probably going to give the armor-sundering banners to Settra as well, but you know, gotta save up those canopic jars for a number of things, waking heroes, and yeah, even this late into the game, we are still hankering for more canopic jars, aren't we? All good though. Anyway, our Tomb Guard stream through the lines of chariots. Kind of cool how they sort of move through the around the chariots like this. And we'll block the enemy off rather than allowing the enemy to actually fight the chariots in melee, with the obvious exception of the Tomb Princes and the Lord. It looks like a pile of, I want to say Doom Wagons. Doom Wagons. Snotling Pump Wagons. They may as well be Doom Wagons, considering how overpowered Pump Wagons are for their cost. Or at least the Spiky Rollers. These are the regular ones, a little bit less threatening. But anyway, they move their way towards the Tomb Guard, and unfortunately for them, they are very fragile, and thus will get torn to shreds while we continue fighting. This first army doesn't concern us all that much, so we're free to sort of fight out of formation and just run out of the enemy using our chariots, primarily only as range support, as the enemy here will be cut down. The real enemy force, the real threat, is all of the elites coming out of the enemy garrison, and they're going to take a fairly long time to get to us over here. Frankly, I'm surprised that the enemy decided to stay and guard the choke point with this army, rather than perhaps move towards where their other units were coming in onto the map. And now we're out of the desert and into the Badlands here, and thus we have a Badlands map, Badlands night map, which is going to be a little bit darker than the desert maps I'm sure we've grown so fond of over the course of the campaign. Cathay maps are also really nice too. They're also definitely made with love, and there's just so many like lovely little elements on the Cathay maps that you can always look around and find more stuff that you have missed. Plus the sort of idyllic grasslands and other such stuff that they have also tend to give you some nice nice shots. But anyway, the balance of power is in the enemy's favor now that their reinforcements are here. But again, this first army isn't too concerning, and are slowly just being worn down by our Tomb Guard and such. The real fight will begin when the enemy gets here, but we might as well knock out as many of this army as possible. That said, doesn't mean everything is going in going our way. The spinning loons are pretty obnoxious in terms of the amount of damage they deal. We can see this Tomb Guard unit down to about, I don't know, 45% of their HP-ish, and that was pretty much just due to spinning loons hitting them while in the midst of combat. As usual, goblins doing way more damage than orcs doing. Just how the game works. But what can you do? And we got more spinning loons released. Hopefully these guys are too far away, or now they're going to head towards this Tomb Guard unit as well, and there we go. Alrighty, Tomb Guard will lose. Yeah, see that? And that wasn't even a direct hit right in front of the unit. Massive damage from those spinning loons. The Black Orcs and the Biggins only wish that they could do that kind of work. And that's only with one unit standing there. If our units were blobbed up, they would have moved through even more of them. Anyway, time to start repositioning ourselves, regrouping, and getting ready for the arrival of the real fight. The first of the enemy armies is pretty much broken, and we'll just make sure that any of the enemy units that are running away get pin-cushioned or otherwise destroyed by our units. Otherwise, I think we can speed this up a teensy bit as we wait for the arrival of the other enemies. And hey, there's a river troll hag who had a pretty bad day, and we can see how quickly her HP dropped when under fire from all the chariots. Oh, don't tell me you're gonna let her live with 100 HP. Come on, guys. What is this? All right, come on, somebody, please. Please, somebody, anybody. All right, well, unfortunately, now we do have to target the Ragnarok, who's going to move on in, and, well, we got to deliver a little bit of that HP damage to it, so fair enough. We can't have it charging the chariots, however, so we will move them away, but fortunately, this will mean probably a couple of hits to the River Troll Hag. Granted, they're shattered, but we certainly don't want them coming back either. And the Ragnarok is heading towards us still with about 80% of its HP remaining. Okay, somebody, please. They'll do it. They'll do it eventually. And there we go. Oh, that wasn't enough. Wow, we're covered up to 500 HP. Pretty solid. Alright, well, not going to be solid for too much longer. Ragnarok's still moving towards us, but between the damage and the fact that the Screaming Skull catapults are firing away at it, it isn't having a particularly good time. Discouraged plus take cover, that means that it loses leadership and actually routs just before reaching our battle lines with 50% of its HP. Frankly, the enemy really shouldn't have sent the Ragnarok in towards us by itself, but, you know, orcs and all that. The orcs are not so smartly moving towards us in a big old column, which should be pretty susceptible to artillery fire, and our Screaming Skull catapults and Casket of Souls alike will take full advantage of it, and by dropping those souls and covering all those orcs in ectoplasm. The Savage Giant, however, and the Trolls are not going to be susceptible to this artillery fire, though admittedly, the Caskets of... sorry, not the Casket, the Screaming Skull Catapult might have actually been able to force the Trolls to rout if it had focused them down together with a little bit of extra range fire. Because again, Trolls have low leadership and we lower their leadership before they got to us, but I think it was more critical to just fire into the blob. In the meantime, if you're wondering where the chariots are that gave chase to the other units, they're playing a little bit of a wild goose chase. They're leading the enemy boar boys around, orc boar boy biggins, I should say, around, who cannot catch them and will continue to take range fire from them, and just acting as skirmisher cav in this particular situation. This is something that Settra's chariots cannot do, since we went for all melee chariots there, since I wanted to have a little bit of difference between the armies. Generally speaking, the ranged chariots are better just by virtue of having access to that range ability and having, you know, being able to act as sort of mid-tier single-entity snipers and, you know, skirmishing around, leading the enemies around, etc. before charging into the fray and melee. But I just thought that Settra would prefer the melee chariots. With his buffs, nobody would have a stronger set of melee chariots after all, anyway. Anyway. The balance of power is at about 80%, maybe 75% in our favor. The main enemy line has arrived, piles of biggins and black orcs facing off against our Tomb Guard, making them look tiny by comparison, but with the repeated uses of the reanimate/resurrect that we now have on, well, many lords, we should be able to keep them up and running against the enemy. And especially since the secondary army has primarily orcs and not night goblins, we're less scared of them dishing out significant damage to our Tomb Guard than we would be if we were expecting more spinning loons. Otherwise, the enemy boar boys still fruitlessly chasing around our chariots in the background, eating arrow after arrow. And once we're ready, we can simply use the ranged chariots to charge into the rear line of the enemy, especially when they come closer to running out of ammunition. For some reason we have to look at this battle from this particular angle, because if we turn, the lighting becomes a lot darker and more difficult to see. But we'll do that. Ooh, while activation comes on in, that should power up the Black Orcs a fair bit. Will they be able to get through the 69, 72 now? Melee defense of the Tomb Guard remains to be seen. They certainly have the armor piercing to get through us, whether it be with the Orc Biggins or with the Black Orcs, who hit very, very hard. The Black Orcs hit as hard as Ushabti, melee Ushabti do. Certainly twice as hard as the Tomb Guard do, and that with armor piercing at that. But, you know, that should hardly be of any surprise. Alright, and it looks like with that, the Black Orcs have realized that they will find no purchase and will be unable to break through our battle line of Tomb Guard without goblins to spinning loon their way through them. They just couldn't dish out enough damage, and yes, I'm I'm continuing to throw shade at the orcs there for their inability to match the gobos in pure damage. Lovely. And it looks like they need Grimgore to really, frighten them into doing good work. Alright, well, we should be able to chase down or otherwise destroy most of the enemy units here. Again, our units of chariots, ranged chariots, work fairly well as single entity snipers, and at the very least, the Ragnarok, the giant, the trolls, will probably have a very difficult time escaping. A lovely work from our second chariot force. Alright, there we go. Looks like some beautiful work from the ranged chariots this time around. 36,000 damage, 45,000 damage, outdoing all of the Tomb Guard by a fairly decent bit. Our Tomb Prince and our Tomb King here on their chariots didn't do too bad either. 11,000 damage, 16,000 damage, 14,000. Of course, the Casket and the Screaming Skull had an ideal sort of situation, so hardly surprising that they did so well. And 20 and 23 on the Tomb Bark. Everybody did good this battle. Well done, Alcazar II. I guess we'll heal up because we'll need to auto-resolve what remains here, and the auto-resolve probably doesn't like our little chariot army here. Alright, enemy killed in battle, yada yada yada. Are you able to still catch up to this guy? I think you are. Go into regular stance, so that you have a little bit of movement remaining, catch him, and then head to Crad Tommen. Hopefully this doesn't screw us over. Let's just hope it isn't a mistake. And of course it's going to kill all of our Tomb Guard on garbage. Ugh, game. And let me guess, you can't, and now you can't reach Crad Tommen. I should have just gone for it. Oh well, what can you do? And now your healing here is going to be limited. I deserve that. And we got Death Singer. Not that it's super useful because we have other sources of regen, but anyway. And these guys are gonna probably get a decent bit of their garrison back. Let's just hope it's not a full garrison and takes some time to re-up itself, or else we'll have to fight the battle again. Not that it wasn't an enjoyable one. Anyway, folks, with that, we are out of time. I do believe... Oh, I think that was actually the last thing that we had to do in terms of move this turn, but I might end the turns between the episodes, as I don't believe that there's anything besieging us. Might as well do 2 turns worth of admin in one go, and next time we continue. Khalida will grab her for sort of full stack and get moving northward to grab the Knights of Calador as a vassal, and then to fight her way through the orcs and towards Arbal. Settra's going to take Margor Khan and maybe go down to Nagashazar just for fun. And then, I don't know, just start going northward, I guess. I mean, I doubt that we'll reach Cirtha Ek, to be perfectly honest. It's going to take like 30 turns of nothing but travel, and there's no guarantee that he's even alive all the way up here. Do we see any Varg territory? Oh, they're there.
Whichever woeful deity
they are alive, though they are all the way up here, so I don't know about that one, but otherwise, we will continue on our way to the next book, which will hopefully be acquired by King Wakov here, and then Panat will go after this book here, leaving us 7 out of 8. And we gotta get one of these newer armies attacking the ogres. Katep will be back next turn, and then somebody's gotta grab the book from all the way out here as well. Anyway, stay tuned for more Settra. Don't forget to leave those likes and comments below, as they will determine the length of the campaign. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.